Okay. All right. Lesson number 8. Pure Mindedness. It's hard for me to say that word, but being pure in mind is what he's talking about. Pure in all things. Our memory verse is Titus 1:15, and it says, "Unto the pure all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure, but even their mind and conscience is defiled." We're going to run into that verse here in a little bit here. Our lesson last Sunday was on worship. That was the title of our lesson last Sunday, was worship. In order to worship God, we found out that we have to have a pure mind. Our mind has to be right, or it's not worship. And so now we're studying about having a pure mind. I think the front of our book there, well, let me see, I don't know, that may not be quite right. Okay, pure mindedness. Okay, on the front of the teacher's book, it has "Keep a Pure Mind." That's the title of the lesson right here. Keep a pure mind. And you know, it's up to us. When God purifies us, when God saves us, cleans us up, it's up to us to keep a pure mind. Amen. Our mind can get cluttered with a lot of things. And you know, it's a obligation of ours to keep a pure mind. If we let our minds stray and do one thing or another, we're going to get distracted, and we're going to have problems when we have let our mind get cluttered up like that. We're going to have problems, and you know, when that happens, that's a little pinhole that becomes part of us that leaks out the things of God, and clutterness gets in then. I know when you air a tire up, you know, you want that air to stay in there. You want that, you know, if it don't stay in, and you don't care how it gets out of there, it's going to cause problems. You know, there could be many things. It may not seal around the bead. It may have a hole in it. It may have a nail in it. The valve core may be messed up. There's several different things that can cause problems, and every one of them results into a problem later on, because you'll be driving along, all of a sudden you're on a flat tire, you can't go very far. And you know, that's the same way it is with our heart. We have to keep pure before God, or otherwise the air's going to leak out. The wonderful things of God is going to leak out, and we're going to have problems there. I'm going to read the junior emphasis there. Not outside things, but inside things defile us. You know, not the outside things. Jesus dealt with outside sinfulness. Now, he wasn't sinful. I'm not saying he was sinful, but there was people out there that was sinful, that he had to deal with, had to work around, had to live with, had to be around every day. There was people out there that's always trying to trip him up in what he was saying and one thing and another. But he dealt with it, you know. I mean, he lived there. You are still in this world, but Jesus had a pure mind about it. Only goodness came out of his mind and out of his heart, even around these defiled people. And you know, that's what it's getting here. Not outside things, but inside things defile us. If we associate with them things and buddy up to them, then we're going to start getting defiled. It's going to work its way in. But if we resist it, as the Bible says, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. resist. Don't give in to the things that are sinful, because it will defile us, is what it'll do. It sure will. And so here's what he's saying: not outside things, but inside things defile us. Sin comes out of one's heart. That's where it starts at, is in the heart there. Let me get you a quarterly here so that you can follow along. We're on this lesson right here, and it'll take in about the next two or three pages, 3 or 4 pages there, and we're starting right there is where we're at, and so we must put off evil thoughts. I'm reading the emphasis, but it's the junior emphasis. It's not going to be found in your quarterly there, but I'm just kind of bringing out what the junior emphasis says. It's a lot like the adult emphasis, but we must put off evil thoughts and words. Always put that off. Don't have anything to do with that. Yes, you will hear evil words, but you know, the first thing is blot them out of your mind. Think about the things of God, because if you associate with evil words, evil thoughts, evil stories, dirty stories and stuff like that, jokes, whatever, it's going to impact you. It's going to get a hold of you. We must fill our mind with good thoughts. Well, what is good thoughts? Pureness. The pureness of what God has for us each and every day. Let's go ahead and read our first verses there in Mark 7 and 15. There's about 4 of them there, and it says, "There is nothing from without a man that entering into him can defile him, but the things which come out of him, those are they that defile the man." I'm going to stop right there. That's the first reading there, first verse of our reading. I think what has happened here was the Sadducees, Pharisees, and I think it's Pharisees probably more than the Sadducees, had talked to Jesus that the disciples hadn't washed their hands, and you know, and they was getting on Jesus because he didn't command the disciples to wash their hands before they eat. And this is what Jesus said to them: it's not what goes into the man, but it's what comes out of the man is what defiles the man. And so, you know, yes, for cleanliness, washing hands is the right thing to do. I like to wash my hands before I eat dinner. You know, yesterday I was working in wood. I was cutting wood, and you know, before I eat, I like to wash my hands. You know, get cleaned up a little bit. You know, but that's just cleanliness is what that is. That's hygiene is more what that is. That has nothing to do with sin or what can defile your heart. That has nothing to do with that. And then he goes on and says, "For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornication, murder." He mentions a few here. This is not a whole list of them, because anything can be sinful if you allow it to be sinful. Evil thoughts, he's mentioned a few. Evil thoughts, adultery, fornication, murders, theft, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blaspheming, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile the man. And like I said, that's just a short list. That's just a short list. People can use anything to defile theirself. Sure. People will even use religion to defile theirself. I mean, you think, religion, how can you use religion to defile? They do it. They do that. Defilement comes from the heart, as it said. Defilement comes from the heart. There is nothing from without a man, well, I'm going back and reading that first verse, that entering into him can defile him. Not what you eat makes you sinful. You know? Not what we touch. Not who we are with. Not the place we are in. can make us sinful. None of that can. You mean if I'm in a beer joint, I can't be, that's not sinful? If you're there for the right reason, it will not affect you. Now, if you tend to go there every Friday night or every Saturday night, then I'm going to some kind of wonder, if something's wrong here, But there's times that we have to do some things, but it cannot affect us when we are keeping a pure mind. Keeping a pure mind. That's the root of everything right there, is keeping a pure mind. No, we don't associate in a beer joint every weekend. We don't associate with people, and that's our main buddies, main group of people is sinful people, Yes, we work around them. We see them probably 5 times a week, sinful people. But we have to work around people that way. But our main concern is to be of a pure mind. That is what the main thing is. And then it goes, it asks them what you touch, what you're with, who you're with, the place you're in. What can? The things that come out of him or out of her, out of your mind, is what really causes the sin. The heart is the center of either sin, the heart is the center of either sin or righteousness. And that's true. There's 2 ways you can go, right or wrong. There's no middle ground. No. There's no middle ground. It's either right or you're wrong. I'm right or I'm wrong. One or the other. I'm not half right. I'm not half wrong. No. It's right or wrong. The thoughts and plans in the heart come out as words and acts. And then it gives us a caution here. Watch your heart carefully. And that's good ammunition right there. Watch your heart carefully. Sins, some of which Jesus listed, defiled because the heart that produces them is defiled, rotten, dead, and sinful. That's where it all comes from. But I'm a pretty good person. Well, people may say that, but I'm a pretty good person, Well, are you pure in heart? If you're pure in heart, yes, you're a real good person. But if you're not pure in heart, well, I'm partly pure. Nope, I'm sorry. There we go again. There we go. We ain't no half pure. It's either pure or you're not. Right. And so, that's the reason why each and every day we have to get our guidance from God, each and every day. Impure things outside us and around us cannot make us sinful. I'm going to tell you that one more time. I'll probably tell you several more times before this lesson's over. But that's impure things outside us and around us cannot make us sinful. Now, they can be an influence upon us if we let them. But that's the reason why that pure mind has to stay pure mind. Don't let the air out. Don't let the air out. Keep that air in. Make sure the valve stem's tight. Make sure that there's no punctures, because otherwise we're going to leak it there. However, they may tempt us to sin. If our heart says yes to them and we yield to them, we have fallen into sin. Be careful what you see or hear or read or think or where you go. That's a very big caution right there. Where you go and what you see and what you hear, as long as you are pure mind, they cannot affect your salvation. But they can have an influence on you. I want to let you know that they can have an influence. As soon as as soon as a person hears something that maybe he shouldn't hear, or see something that you shouldn't hear, the first thing to do is go before the Lord and just say, Lord, that hit me, that come upon me by accident. Wipe that out of my mind. Help me to think on the good things of God. And there's going to be a verse we're going to run into here in a little bit that's going to give us good ammunition on that. Help me to think on you, Lord. Help me to be able to wipe this out. Remember the lesson number 2 when we studied yieldedness? We must yield to God, not to Satan. We see how temptation leads to sin, and sin results in spiritual death. Submit yourself, therefore, to God. Resist the devil. I've already mentioned that verse. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. That's found in James 4 and 7. But that is ammunition there. Submit yourself. And in order to be able to submit yourself to God, you have to have a pure mind. God will not accept anything other than a pure mind when you submit to Him. Resist the devil. The devil will come to us. A devil will come to a pure-minded person. We're not immune of the devil because we're pure-minded. Are we, Brother Bayless?
No. We're his favorite targets.
We're what?
His favorite targets.
Okay. But we're not immune from the devil. You know, when the devil comes and tempts us, you know, we can kind of thank the Lord. What does it say? Rejoice in temptation, you know. We can rejoice in temptation. It's hard to. It's very hard to. But we can rejoice in temptation because the devil's trying to get us. So that kind of shows that we're on the right path, you know. If the devil never bothers us, we might ought to check ourselves and see where we're at. But you know, we can resist the devil, and that's what we need to do. Put up that old stop sign and say, whoa, right there. You're close enough. I've seen enough of you. Get out of here, you know. And resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Jesus listed, as I mentioned here, Jesus listed some of the sins that come out of the heart. At first, each is a thought. Each one of them sins comes through the thought process of your mind. Then a desire. Then a plan. And finally an act. And not necessarily is the act the final thing that creates the sin. The sin can already taken place in your mind. You know, I've got a thought, I've got a desire, and I've got a plan, but I didn't do the act, so therefore I'm all right. Where's that pureness of mind? That pureness of mind kind of went out the window, didn't it, when you say that? And you know, as soon as the thought comes in your mind, that's when it needs to be blown out, because that's puncturing that air tire. That's puncturing that hole. That's putting a hole in that tire. They begin little, and they do. They begin little, but they grow. Evil thoughts. Don't think sinful thoughts. They are poison. Make good thoughts. Push out the evil. Keep your pure mind. Now you can't think on good things, have an evil mind and think on good things and keep thinking on good things, and it just automatically pushes them out. No, you got to have salvation first of all. But you know, as soon as an evil thought comes in your mind, that's what you need to get rid of and think on the good things. That's what he's talking about. You don't just progress into salvation. That's not the way it goes. That's not the way it works, you know. But you know, when an evil thought comes in our mind, push it out, push it out. Nope, I don't want to dwell on that. I don't want to dwell on that, because that's strictly uncharacteristic of what I want to be. It's strictly, I want a pure mind. I want a pure mind. And if I have that little bit of clutter in my mind, it's going to impuriate, and it's going to contaminate the thoughts that I do have. Keep Keep a pure mind in your mind. Keep it pure at all times. Let's go to Proverbs 4:23. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. What does the word diligence mean? Diligence. Say that again.
Make an effort.
When you make an effort, keep thy heart with all diligence. The degree of attention or care expected of a person in a given situation. Taking care of it. Be concerned. You know. Keep it. Don't let it get away. You know. The pure things of God. Don't let it seep out. Don't let it seep out. Take control. You know, people like to have control. People like to have control, you know. Take control of your heart by letting Jesus have control of your heart, but you take care of what comes into your heart. Isn't that a good idea? Isn't that a good idea to do that, you know? You know, you're responsible for what comes into your heart. The Lord is responsible for cleaning up your heart. You turn your heart and life over to Him, and He's not going to fail. He's going to clean your heart and life up. But then you have the control to keep the pureness in that heart. And you know, you can't do it by yourself. You got to do it with God. God's the one that helps you to be able to do that. Right. But you know, every day serving Jesus gets sweeter each day. I think there's a song kind of like every day with Jesus gets sweeter every day. You know, you get into a habit of doing this. You don't fall in a rut now, but you get into a habit of serving Jesus. And you know, some habits are good. Oh yeah, smoking tobacco and stuff like that. No, that's bad. But you know, interacting and having a relationship with God each and every day is a good habit to get into. Don't get into the rut, but get into the habit of it. And you know, He will help you. He will help you as long as you decide to keep a clear, pure mind in doing that. The thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Lord, but the words of the pure are pleasant words. That's found in Proverbs 15:26. The thoughts of a wicked, you know, nobody likes to be considered wicked. You know, you could ask Charles Manson, you know, about being wicked. No, he wouldn't consider himself wicked, you know. But you know, there is wicked people, you know. And you know, God looks on people that we might look at as being pretty good people, but God looks on them as being wicked, you know. And it all stems from that pure mind that we are to have before God. Let's go into Colossians 3:8 there. But now ye also put off all these things. And this is Paul mentioning to the Colossians there. And he mentions a few of the things that we need to put off here. Anger, wrath, malice, blaspheming, filthy conversation out of your mouth. Practice to put off. The Colossian Christians had put off sins. We must put them off too, first by being saved, then ask Jesus to help us. Put off anger. That's definitely one that needs to be put off. Sure. Anger. Do not let it grow into wrath. You know, that's what happens. Anger will grow into wrath. And then the malice is even worse yet, you know. And it seeks ways to hurt you if you don't put it off at the very start. It seeks ways to put a hurt on you and to separate you from your Savior. And it will. Blaspheming is very bad. Well, every one of us would agree with that. Never speak disrespectfully or light or jokingly of God. That was one of them that was mentioned there. You know, it says anger, wrath, and malice, and blaspheming. But you know, there's no really particular order of sins. I mean, Satan will use any sin to get you. You know, there's that one song that we sang last Sunday. You know, Satan will tell you that you're doomed for you know. Well, he'll tell some people that, but then he'll tell other people, oh, you're doing all right, when you're not doing all right. See, he'll use every trick in the book to try and trip you up. And you know, and they may be doing the same thing, but he thinks that'll work better on this person and this will work better on the other person. He's no respecter person. We got to watch him. We got to watch him. He's evil, and we got to have a pure mind. Never say you or any person can do or be what only God can do or be. Keep reverence for God and the Bible in your heart. Always do that. Any lowering of God or His Son in our thinking is sin. We are to exalt and magnify His name in the purest sense. Pure. Did you catch that word? Pure? Pure. Pureness. Pureness in our heart. There's many other sins. Let me look here. Okay, before this verse here, he was writing, he says, mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth. And he's listed some more there. He listed fornication. This is found in the 5th verse, which we read the 8th verse. And he listed fornication, uncleanliness, inordinate affections, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Okay, he mentions that. Then in verse 12, which it's not written in your quarterly there, but in verse 12, he also says, put on, therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, bowels of mercy, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long-suffering. Do you see the difference there? You know, before he was mentioning the bad, now he's mentioning the good, you know. And he says to kindness. How can you show kindness when you show wrath or evil affection? How can you show kindness? How can you show mercies, you know? It's the exact opposite. How can you have hot water and cold water in the same thing together? Okay, like an ice chest. You know, an ice chest will keep things hot too, won't it? You know, it'll keep things hot. If you put hot stuff in there, it's going to keep it hot for a while, right? But you can't put hot stuff in one side of it and then cold stuff in the other side and expect to have cold when you open it up. Have the cold stuff over here and the hot over here, you know. It's not going to work that way, you know. And that's the same way it is with evil and good. They can't dwell together like that. It will corrupt the other. And above all these things, this is verse 14. Here, 13. I read 12, long suffering. 13, forbearing one another and forgiving one another. If any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye. Pureness in mind. This is not in your quarterly. If you're kind of lost there, it's not in the quarterly. I'm reading some extra here. It's the 14th verse of, we read Colossians 3 and 8, and I'm reading on down there, Colossians 3 and 14. And above all these things, put on charity, which is the bond of perfectness. You know, if we will do that, that'll help us in our pureness of heart. Purity, charity and purity. You know, they're spelt closely the same, you know. They got some of the same letters, let me put it that way. But you know, charity and purity is hand in hand. That helps. And let the peace of God dwell in your hearts. This is verse 15. To the which also ye are called in one body, and be ye thankful. Let the word of God dwell in you richly, in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord. And whatsoever ye do in word and deed. Here's the word. Here's the verse I like. I remember one time. My mother was the young people's meeting. The young people's meeting leader is what she was. This was one of the verses I remember that we had to memorize. And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by Him. And you know, that's good ammunition there. Whatever you do. I went out and cut wood yesterday. Paul and I went up to my sons and we cut wood, you know. But you know, we didn't see the grandchildren for a while. We didn't go up there just to see the grandchildren, you know. But we went up there to cut wood, and we probably cut for an hour and a half out there with that. But you know what we were doing? We had in our mind that we're going to get this done. We're going to do it, and you know. We had God in our minds also, see? And you can. If it's cutting wood, whatever it's doing, whether it's eating lunch or whatever, you can have God. You can have the pureness in your mind each and every day. And so, you know, this is some of the things that was mentioned that are bad, and then some of the things that are mentioned that was good there. It also says, put away filthy or evil conversation or talk. That was in our verse, in our Colossians 3 and 8. You will hear some of it, never join in it. Words influence others. Well, I'm going to say words influence you too. Sure. It will influence you. Keep yours good, clean, and pure. Evil words show an evil mind. What starts in the mind is going to come out. An evil mind comes from an evil heart. Let's go to that Philippians 4 and 8. Things mentioned here. Let's look at it. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true. Think of true. Whatsoever things are honest. Think on honest. Honest. Whatsoever things are just. You know, each one of them words you can something is conjured up in your mind. I'm sure it is mine anyway. On each one of those words. Whatsoever things are pure. Whatsoever things are lovely. Whatsoever things are of good report. If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Things to think about. Saints have pure minds. Is any of them corrupt that was mentioned by Paul there to the Philippians? Not a one of them. Not a one of them. Think on them kind of things. You know, life's too short to think on the evil things. That's right. Life is too short and eternity's too long to think on evil things, because eternity is a long time. You know, we that's maybe up in years a little bit, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, you know, we think, a young person thinks, oh my, that's a long time. It'll be a long time before I reach 70 years old, you know. And, well, yeah, I thought that when I was a child too. But you know, the closer I get there, it's not that long. But eternity is a long time. If you think that life went by in a hurry, well, take for granted that life in eternity is going to be a long time. Things we think about. Saints have pure minds. They think good thoughts. Let us look at some things, some kinds of things to think on. And he's going to mention the things that we mentioned there. Things that are true and honest. Think of that, true and honest. Think of doing true and honest things. Think of people who do such things. Think of true and honest acts you hear about. You know, that's something good to think on. Just, that is things God calls right. Think on that, you know. True and honest, just, you know. How can you go astray on something like that? In order to go astray, you have to get off of these things. That is things that God calls right. Pure things, clean things, things unmixed with sin. And you know, I told you the other earlier in the lesson that sin and pure things do not mix. He's saying unmixed with sin. It's impossible. It's going to either be yes or no. It's either going to be right or wrong. It's either going to be pure or impure. And he's, the writer of our lesson knows that, but you know, he puts that in there just to think of the level that some people think about. Unmixed. Okay. But it will not mix. Pure words. Pure-hearted people. You know, we can think of pure words, pure-hearted people. And you know, there's people that comes to our mind. I can imagine the people that you might be thinking about. You know, my mind goes to Brother Dickey. I think of Brother Bayless. I bet I would think that he was probably thinking of Sister Phyllis. That's what I'm kind of thinking he's thinking. Now, I may be altogether wrong, but I'd say that'd probably come to his mind. You all have other thoughts of things, you know. But you think of a person that's pure, living for God, that has been pure and living for God, that might have already passed on. The two that I mentioned has already passed on. But you know, that's who we think of, you know. Pure-hearted people, pure words, pure-hearted people, lovely. Our beautiful world has many lovely things. People do lovely deeds. Good books tell lovely stories, you know. Lovely things. Thinking of God and how lovingly He came to this earth to buy the plan of salvation. Good report. Oh, there is so much gossip going around, bad reports about this one and that one. Don't mix in it. Don't mix in it. Because you're just doing exactly what Satan wants you to do. You know, that's a temptation. Oh yes, you may work with people that talk about this and talk about that and put people down and all that. What am I doing? Am I saying, oh yeah, you're right about that. Oh yes, you know. Or am I thinking, no, there's good in people. You know, we don't need to talk about that, you know. Even if it's going on, everybody knows it, so why mention it? Let's think on some things, you know, other things. Direct our attention off of evil things and onto the pure things that God has for each and every one of us. Do not mix in it. Do not pass on bad stories, gossip. This is written for a junior class, but you know, it'll work for us too. Sometimes we might have to step down to a level like that and say, well, you know, that piece of the puzzle might fit in my heart, you know it? And so, you know, it's good to go over this. Christians do not enjoy bad reports. Wow. Did you hear that? Well, what is a bad report? Anything that's unpure. Anything that's not pure. That's what he's talking about. And so, you know, what good can I tell about a teacher or a person, Joe, or he's mentioned Joe or Susie or whoever? You know, what good can I tell? Virtue any good quality as goodness, kindness, a forgiving spirit, acts of love. How nice to think about these. You know, some people like confrontations and talking bad and talking evil of people, you know. But I don't like doing that. I never have liked doing that. Picking on kids at school. I never did like doing that. If I got involved in something like that, it hurt me inside, you know. And I learned from an early age that, hey, I could be that child that they picked on. Sure. I could be that child, and how would I feel, you know? And, you know, that's the same way it is with co-workers, you know. You know, as they talk about one another, what if I was that person that they were talking about? I don't want to get involved in that. You know, just everyday living, you don't want to get into that. But you know, some people, they just eat that up. But you know, that's not the right thing, and it's certainly not the right thing for Christians to do. Virtue. Any good quality as goodness, kindness, a forgiving spirit, acts of love. How nice to think about these things. Praise. What can you praise in God in your parents or friends? Say a word of praise instead of blame whenever you can. I think that's good ammunition right there. You know, this person, oh, they may be slow and they may gripe about this person or that person, but hey, they get their job done. You know, let's look at that part. You know, if they're not here, it's a void there. You know, somebody has to pick up slack. So evidently they're doing something. You know, and you know, you think on things like, think on these things. Look for them. Think of them as you walk to school or any time. It says here, we generally become like our thoughts. You know, yesterday as I was cutting wood, something got in my eye. A little piece of sawdust got in my eye after we was done cutting, and one thing and another. I don't know even how it got there. All while I was cutting, it didn't, you know. But as soon as I got in the truck and was driving, why, something got in my eye, you know. And you know, as that was in my eye, it was getting a place where I couldn't see real good, you know, and kind of blurry. Then it'd move, and then I could see, you know. And you know, that's just like sin in our hearts. You know, we let a little sin get in our heart. Oh, that thing felt like it was this big, you know, but, you know, it was a little bitty thing, couldn't hardly see it, you know, because it finally came out this morning. But, you know, that's what sin does in our hearts. It gets in our heart and it blurs, and it distorts, and it aggravates, and it hurts, you know, sometimes, and you know, and I got to thinking about that, and I thought, you know, that's exactly how sin affects us. And we want to get that out. I wanted to get that out, but I couldn't. I tried lifting my lid over the other one, you know, and try to flush it out that way. I couldn't get it out. But you know, when sin comes in our heart, we can get it out, you know. God will help us to get that thing out just as quick as He can. He might not help me yesterday or exactly when I wanted to get it out, but it got out then. But you know, that's the way it is in our heart and life. Think on pure things. Don't let that thing get in there, and then as soon as a thought comes, get that thing out of there. Let's look at this next verse, Titus 1:15. That's our memory verse. Unto the pure all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure, but even their mind and conscience is defiled. Pure people think pure thoughts. Unto the pure all things are pure. You know, we don't want to be corrupted by the sin. When we are a saint, when we're a Christian, we don't want to be corrupted by the things of this world. We want to stay pure before God. Pure in our thoughts, pure in our heart, pure in our soul, pure in our character. If we mess up our character, it takes years to get that character back and to get that reputation. Maybe I should say reputation more than character. But you know, if you mess up on your reputation, it takes a long time. What you can do in just a few seconds will take a long time to get straightened out. And so, you know, God will take care of us right away if we will let Him. And God will forgive us right away. But with our colleagues or our co-workers or even saints, there's a little bit of friction between, you know, and we have to be very careful. It's best not to mess up your reputation rather than to mess it up and then get it straightened out later. Pure people think pure thoughts. Unto the pure all things are pure. Pure people can see or hear anything and not make something dirty out of it. They do not want to. Jesus Christ makes their heart clean. They love pure things and find them. They look for pure things, and that's when they find them. Their desire is to be pure. Their desire, Christian people's desire, is to be pure. They don't go looking for orneriness and badness and stuff like that, defilement. They look for the good thing. Defilement and unbelieving people see sin everywhere, and they look for it, and that's what they gloat in is that they look for it, and we have to be pure-minded in order to be a child of God. Our lesson today was named Pure Mindedness, and we have to be that in order to be a child of God. There is only one way to have a truly pure mind and heart. There's only one way. And you're thinking, Brother Larry, what's that way? I think I know. You know, you might think, oh, I think I know. I think I know what you're going to say. Well, here's the answer. Let Jesus wash you clean from sin in His blood. Amen. Now, us that have experienced that, we know the answer. You never know what might come out of a person's, where they're kind of leading and all. But this is pretty simple right here. This is really simple here. Let Jesus wash you clean from sin in His blood. He will give you a pure mind. That's what He puts in there. He gives you a pure mind. And then it's up to you to keep that mind pure. Let's look at 2 Corinthians 7:1. Having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God. If we live according to the way God wants us to live, if we will get our direction from God each and every day, and if we will follow that direction that we get each and every day, God will not lead us astray. It's like a parent guiding their children. Good parents always want to see the best of their children. God is even more interested in us than we were our own children. He wants to see the best of us. If we about to touch a hot stove, God's going to say, whoa, 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 back up, back up, back up. You know, if a child touches a hot stove or getting ready to touch it, whoa, 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 you'll make all kinds of gestures and to get them to stop from touching that stove, because you know the results of it. God knows the results of us when we leave His fold. And so we have to be put all of our trust in God. Let Him lead us. Let Him guide us. We don't know what we're going to see during the day, but He does. It will not be revealed to us until probably later that day, well, what has happened. But God already knows that. And so we have to be very careful. Pureness of mind. That is ammunition that you could never go wrong on, is pureness of mind. How are we living? Are we living with a pure mind? With not always running out trying to find orneriness, but having a pure mind before God. That's what's important to us. That's what's important to God, and that's what will help us to win heaven as our home.